I would assume, good, and you can go ahead and set up to share.
Thank you. Can you all just confirm for me that I do not sound like a chipmunk right now? Okay, thank you. I have an issue with this webcam mic, and sometimes I sound like Alvin. So thank you so much for having me this morning. My name is Katie Robert. I am the director of the JSI Northern New England group, also known as Community Health Institute locally. I'm so happy to see a lot of friendly faces here. And I also see that we have several of our subcommittee members here, Anella and Martha, and I don't know of anyone else, but so I'll also ask Anella and Martha to please chime in and add any additional context that I might miss or just anything else. So again, I'm here to talk about the state health assessment and the state health improvement planning process. Just give a little bit of background of where we are, where we've come, where we're going, and then just to kind of put out a seed of thinking of potential opportunities or interests to work with us to help incorporate the perspectives of all groups in our work. So the state, and I realize my slides are a little text heavy, so I'll try not to read right off of them. The State Health Assessment and Improvement Council is now a legislative committee. Last year, it transitioned from just convening of the Department of Health and Human Services into an actual legislative group. It's made up of close to 40 health and wellness related representatives and community organizations, really crossing the spectrum of agencies, partners working across social determinants of health. And the hat I'm wearing here today is kind of the resource support for the subcommittee on community engagement, which is lives within the larger advisory group. So this group is responsible for completing the state health assessment, which will then inform the next state health improvement plan. And so we are working really closely with the University of New Hampshire, who's leading the state health assessment piece. And then CHI has been brought in to support the community engagement work. The committee is chaired by Senator Sherman. Yvonne Goldsberry is, I believe, the secretary for the group. And then the subcommittee is chaired by Marie Ramos, who is not able to join us today. And then we have probably, I don't know, 10 to 12 really active subcommittee members. Martha and Anella can speak to the level of commitment that our really wonderful group has made to this work. So back in 2019, pre-COVID, when the SHA-SHIP group came together, previous to it becoming a legislative group, came together to develop the vision for what this next round of SHA-SHIP is going to look like. And the vision that the group developed was that all people in New Hampshire have equitable opportunity to flourish and achieve optimal mental, physical, social, spiritual, and emotional wellness. With great consideration paid to concepts of equity, where wellness happens, and that wellness happens across the lifespan. I'm going to go through my slides, but if anyone has questions as I go through, please feel free to chime in, chat. And so with this vision in mind, we have kind of the state health assessment piece, which is kind of the very quantitative secondary data kind of analysis. And then our community engagement piece of the SHA leading into the SHIP, what we're trying to learn is how is it that New Hampshire residents define wellness? How do they experience wellness? We know that we can say that we want everybody to be well, but that definition for everyone is going to be different. So in order for us to figure out the best way to allocate and make recommendations for resourcing, we need to know where people feel most impacted in terms of how they feel well and healthy. So phase one of this work happened back in the winter. We worked with the Granite State with the UNH Survey Center and distributed a survey through the Granite State panel. And it was a pretty intensive survey. It was pretty long. and we captured a lot of information. Martha or Anella, do you want to speak at all to that process of, because the subcommittee led the development of that survey. I think we met 8 times over the course, it was 15 times over the course of like 10 weeks, I think, to get it together. So yeah, if Martha or Anella want to speak to that at all.
I would just add that there was a lot of input, a lot of pushback. We made a lot of changes to how the questions were asked so that they would make more sense to the folks that we're trying to reach out to. So there was a lot of input from a lot of folks, and many folks that are usually on this call, Bobby from Nashua and Maria Ramos, Julie, Anella, Kirsten Dursey were involved, Ed Chinchala from Amanuenset, Karen V Group. I mean, there's a lot of input. So hopefully we did the best, I think, that we could with the folks in the room.
And actually, I can share, I realize I'm talking about, Anella, do you want to add anything?
No, I just wanted to add Trish Tilley too. So
Trish, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And I realize I'm talking about this survey, but in total abstract without you having seen it. So that I'll also share that survey when I share the slides. So we did the initial survey analysis, survey data collection. We knew that that was not going to capture all of the groups, all of the experiences that we wanted to really reach in this process. And so the plan was that we would do that initial kind of general population survey through the panel. And then we would go through this, what we are kind of lovingly calling SHIP 2.0 process, where we are going to kind of build upon the data on some of the findings that we initially have from that first round of surveying, identify which groups, which identities, which communities we want to reach out to and understand in greater detail what their experience of health and wellness is. And so that's where we are at now.
And Katie, I would just add, we knew that doing a more traditional survey was not going to reach all of those populations. It's like we planned to have that we were going to have to use a different method.
Yeah.
It's really what this phase 2 is about.
Yeah, and I will also say that we, with this committee now kind of living in perpetuity as a legislative commission, there's a bit of pressure taken off.
I just heard from Nicole.
In that there are so many groups that we want to connect with. We can pick a first round, a second round, a third round. The work is going to continue. So groups that we aren't able to connect with in this round will be connected with in future with future opportunities, because the SHIP work will continue. And so before I share the list of groups that we kind of settled on as in this next iteration, the subcommittee went through a great deal of consideration and kind of thinking about how to best move forward in the work, not wanting any one particular group to feel left behind or left out. We wanted to know, in some of those conversations, we were thinking about what other data collection activities or engagement activities are happening within the population, who's currently in good hands. I borrowed that because I looked at one of Trini's work plan documents that she sent out, and I saw that as a criteria for consideration, and I really liked it. So thank you for that. How did COVID impact a population differently than others? And then the intersectionality was a huge component of this conversation and how we were considering it, because we know that going into one community and having, 1 or 2 listening sessions, that's 1 or 2 listening sessions with those people who showed up. There's so much more to those folks that we would be talking to. They have so many other identities than just the one that we are specifically going in to reach out to. And so some of those kind of more common or not more common, but some of those identities that we were thinking through are older adults, families who are impacted by behavioral health issues and SUD challenges, families with young children, people who are experiencing chronic disease, other disabilities and conditions. And so where we ended up landing after looking at the Granite State Panel Survey that went out in January and then having this kind of further discussion, the group decided to move forward with doing outreach and engagement with these populations, with these communities. So LGBTQIA+, people experiencing housing insecurity, families and individuals impacted by incarceration, including individuals who are incarcerated, communities of color, including refugee and immigrant individuals, and then people who have hearing and visual impairment. So these are our first five, if you will. And what we're here now to do is figure out the best way for us to reach into those communities in an appropriate, a sensitive, collaborative way to talk to them, to reach out and find out how are folks with these identities experiencing health and wellness, what impacts their health and wellness, what are the barriers that they're experiencing, what are some of the supports that they rely upon. And so recognizing that every single one of these communities is going to require a really tailored approach to connecting. Our first step is to try and make some connections with advocates or leaders within those communities to understand the best way to do that. Kind of at a high level, we're thinking we would like to be able to, host some listening sessions, or if we could come to meetings and, ask a few questions of folks, and we could do it a few different ways. We would like to be able to re-administer the survey to folks within these groups as another means of capturing some data. We are able to offer stipends for people who are participating in the work, whether as a listening session participant for the survey data. And we were also able to provide some stipend support for folks who are able to help us with some of this recruiting work for some of the champions. So we have funding through DHHS. We just received a donation from the New Hampshire Association of Family Practitioners for some of that work. And then we're in preliminary conversations with a few other organizations who would like to be able to provide us some incentive support for this work. So that is my spiel, and that's what I'm here to talk about, and to hopefully maybe spark some interest in potentially working with us in this next round of community engagement. Within the committee, we do have a really strong list of connections that we can go out and do some initial work for these particular groups. But we recognize that there is a lot of this work happening in parallel with other initiatives. And so we want to make sure that we are not running perpendicular, we're not running too parallel, that we can kind of be in the same lane. And just, yeah, so any questions? Rick?
I don't see questions in the chat, but feel free to pipe up, everyone. And Melissa, or I'm sorry, Katie, can we stop the slide share and then we can all look together for conversation?
Yeah, I see Rick, I think, has his hand up.
I did, Katie. Thank you. I'm Rick Menard. I'm the Executive Director of Building Community in New Hampshire. We work with some of the refugee communities in the state. How do we, how do we connect? If we want to help you reach those communities, what can we do? Do you just need my email for now?
That would be fabulous. That would be fabulous.
I'll
Rick.
put that in the chat then. Thanks.
Yeah, so I'll just say where we are in the process right now is we're trying to just finalize the IRB piece of this. And so because of the more vague component, the vague aspect of us trying to figure out how exactly we're going into the community, it's causing us a little bit of a stalling point. So it would be wonderful if we could if you want to share emails, and then we will be sending out initial contact as soon as that comes through.
Katie, can you please put your address in the chat for everyone?
Sure can. And I want to share, we're pretty excited. We thought we were going to hit a roadblock. We assumed we were going to hit a roadblock trying to administer the survey within the prison system. We do have a representative from the Department of Corrections on our subcommittee group. And we were able to confirm that we believe we're going to be able to get the IRB approval through UNH to administer the survey in the prison system. So we're really excited for that opportunity.
It's excellent. Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Hi, this is Isadora Rodriguez Legendre from the New Hampshire Council on Developmental Disabilities. I also appreciate the information. I see a lot of potential for collaboration. I'm so glad to see that you've thought of CART and translation and sign language interpreters. We typically have some funding available to support accessibility for disability communities. So I'll also put my information in the chat and hopefully we can connect as this project gets going.
Thank you, Isadora. Any other questions? I feel like I threw a lot at you and also summarized a whole lot of work really quickly. I'm sure I left some things unclear.
Katie, since a lot of people aren't here, maybe when you send out your slides, if you can just be clear, like what's the ask on a slide, just say,
Yep.
you know, reach out, let me know, you know, reach out to me, here's my email, and, you know, whatever else you want to make sure people are clear.
Yeah, so just to clarify that the ask right now is if you would be willing to have a conversation to help us reach into a community that you are working with. And that is about the detail of the ask at the moment, because that's the detail of the ask at the moment.
Sorry, Trini, I let a question in the chat.
Okay, where is it?
Okay, we did not mention the Latino community. Are those included in the plan? So
there is a bullet that says people of color, including immigrants and refugees.
Yep.
So.
Oh, are they included? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank
they
you.
would. Yeah, that would be included within that kind of grouping. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Katie.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, if there's no more questions or comments, we'll stop the recording. And also, Katie, you are welcome. This is an open group. You're welcome for you or someone else from your shop to join us. We're the second and fourth Friday of the month. And right now we are about to launch our 6th work group on climate and environment equity, and or just come because it's a great group of people.
I would love to.